Hey guys, welcome back to the DrCliffAuD vlog. This is vlog number 150, and I cannot believe we've made it to 150 episodes of this vlog. I really appreciate your guys' support along the way. I think I've only missed 1 or 2 weeks over the course of that entire time frame that I've been doing these vlogs, so it's been almost 3 years at this point, which is totally cool. But what I want to talk about today is some questions. Actually, I want to answer some of your questions that you've been leaving on my YouTube channel, and in particular a video that I posted just a day or two ago, which is the best receiver and canal hearing aids of 2023 as we enter 2023. But before I get to answering those questions, if you could do me a huge favor, click that like button. It really helps out my channel, and make sure that you hit that subscribe button with notification bell as well. With that being said, I really appreciate it. And before I get into the questions, I am actually going to be kind of catching you up to speed with what happened this week. So we had probably my favorite Dr. Cliff Show episode ever this past week. If you have not seen it yet, you need to go back and check that out, because Dr. Doug Beck flew out to Arizona to be interviewed on that particular episode. Now, if you do not know who Dr. Doug Beck is, you're missing out, because he has a really long track record of doing research inside of the world of audiology. He's an audiologist himself. He's done private practice. He's worked at a major hearing aid manufacturer doing research. And now he's over at CogniView, really taking a look at this link between cognition and hearing loss and dementia and all of that stuff. So it was an extremely fascinating episode. It blows my mind that he flew all the way out here to actually film that episode, but it was totally worth it. It's an hour of just him dumping a bunch of knowledge about hearing loss and cognition, so it was totally worth it. With that out of the way, I do want to talk about next week's episode. I am not going to be on next week's episode of the Dr. Cliff Show. It is going to be Dr. Rachel Cook, and it is going to be our audiology extern, Kelsey Beck. They are going to be answering questions that you guys have been consistently asking over the course of all of the episodes of the Dr. Cliff Show. If you notice, we only answer about 2 to 3, maybe 4 questions at the most anytime that we do the Q&A at the end of the show, but they're going to dedicate a full 45 minutes to just answering your guys' questions. So make sure that you guys are showing them support. It would actually mean a lot to me if you guys join them live and really give them support over the course of the show, because it is just going to be them. I'm actually going to be flying out of town to Illinois to see my side of the family for our Christmas celebration. And then actually I come right back and fly right back to Kansas for my wife's side of the family holiday get-together. So that'll be really cool. But really appreciate that, guys. Go check them out this Wednesday, 4 p.m. Arizona time on YouTube Live and Facebook Live and WTSMTV.com. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into these questions. And let's see here. The first question comes from Markich. Greetings. Can you make a video, your analysis, statistics? Do your patients like to change brands of hearing aids? If yes, which one? Is it difficult to switch from Oticon to Phonak, or is it better the other way around? So this is a loaded question. There's a couple of questions in there. I don't have any statistics about how many individuals like switching between brands, but I have a couple of rules when it comes to this. Number one, if someone is having a really good experience with the current brand that they are in, I typically like to keep them in that same brand, because their brain is used to processing sound the way that that brand processes sound. On the other hand, if they are not having success with that particular brand, or there is another brand that has some other features that they really want and it makes sense to pull them out of their current brand, then I say go ahead and do it. But you can't just stop there and just say, okay, well, we're going to force you into this other brand because it has certain features. Like, you actually have to progress them properly. Now, I have another video, and I'll try to link this video down in the description, about how to convert someone, or like how to upgrade hearing aids and convert them from one brand or one, make or model to a newer, updated version of that hearing aid, to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples. Because what you don't want to do is just kind of like blindly jump into a new brand of hearing aid and just kind of cross your fingers and hope that you'll actually do better. There should be more of an objective way to do that transition. And in that video, I explain how I transition my patients to new technology, and it works really, really well for them. And then the other part of the question here is it difficult to switch from Oticon to Phonak, or is it better the other way around? I think that those two can sometimes be really difficult, either going from Oticon to Phonak or Phonak to Oticon, because those are two like on the far ends of the spectrum of how they do sound processing and how they tackle things like background noise and stuff like that. So I think it's probably worth it. Like if you see certain features of one of those brands of hearing aids that you really like, I say it's worth giving it a shot. Most audiology clinics will let you test out different devices. They may charge you a certain amount of money to actually go through a professional fitting, which I highly recommend. I am not a big fan of the like free trial where they just throw them in your ears, hit the auto program button and let you test them out that way. I don't think that's a very effective way of doing it. But if they're gonna, charge you a couple $100 to actually test out a new brand of hearing aids, I think that's totally worth it, as long as they're following best practices when they're setting you up with those devices. So I know that that's kind of like a long-winded way. It's like I don't really have any data to back up a lot of that, what I just said. It's just based on my experience, my anecdotal experience of what I witness inside of my own clinic. So that was a really, really good question. One of the other questions here is from Filippo Spada, and he asked, Dr. Cliff, I always appreciated you for your dissemination activity, but what's the point of this video? What is the best? Clearly a video not to displease any producer that doesn't help anyone. And he says some other words after that which make no sense to me, but let me kind of address this issue. So he's specifically talking about the video that I did where I was talking about the best receiver and canal hearing aids of 2023, and he's correct. Like, I don't go and rank order these devices. In fact, I have that in a disclaimer in the front of any of my best of hearing aid videos, because here's the thing. No one hearing aid is perfect for everybody. So if I go in there and rank, let's just say hypothetically, I say Phonak is my favorite hearing aid. I think that this one's the best one. Well, what happens to the individual that a Phonak hearing aid would be horrible for, and they should be going with like an Oticon hearing aid, or someone who should be going with a Widex hearing aid, or a different type of hearing aid because of certain features or because of other variables that get identified during a hearing evaluation and review of their wants and needs. So I want to make these videos to kind of give you an understanding. Okay, here's like legitimately the best hearing aids out on the market in this particular category. And if any one of the highlight features of those hearing aids really kind of like strikes you as like, ooh, that seems really cool, go watch the entire review video and determine like, okay, does it have all these other features that I really want too? And then when you get to the end of that review video, you might be like, oh, this is clearly the hearing aid for me. But then there's another, I actually used to rank order these, and I ran into the issue of someone would see like my top ranked hearing aid from what I felt was the best hearing aid. And they would go into another hearing care professional and they would say, hey, I want this hearing aid. And that professional would be like, well, I can get you that hearing aid, but I never program those devices, so I don't really know what I'm doing with those hearing aids. And then they would have a horrible experience with that hearing aid that I thought was the best, because the provider that they went to, even if their provider is really good, they're really good usually with a few different brands of hearing aids where they get a lot of experience with how to manipulate those devices. And if you end up requesting devices that they're not familiar with, you're not going to have a good experience with them. So, I don't do it not to displease a manufacturer. Like, I could care less if they like my review of them. To be quite honest, like, they're on the list, so they shouldn't be upset at the end of the day. But I don't not rank them because I'm worried about a manufacturer repercussion or something like that. I just don't think that I can serve the viewers of this channel well if I just say, hey, here's what I think's the best, because that would require you to come see me to make sure that you got the most out of that device, or go to another provider who's really experienced with that device. And it's me crossing my fingers hoping that it's the best device for you, which I have no clue, because it typically takes me like an hour to 2 hours to identify what the best hearing aid is for any one of the patients who comes in my clinic. So for me to just blindly go out and say that a particular hearing aid is the best is honestly just kind of not realistic, I guess. It's not ridiculous, it's just not realistic, and I would end up harming more people than I would be doing good for. So hopefully, Filippo, you understand that explanation. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to like it, and I apologize for that, but I think that there's a lot more variables that go into it that I can predict through any of my best of videos. All right, so let's get to the third question. This is a really good question. It's a longer question, so bear with me here. L'amour Noir, I think it's L'amour or Lamort Noir. Having looked through your videos, I am on the fence about which hearing aids I should go with for my next set. I am debating between the Resound Omnia with Marie or the Phonak Lumity with Activent. I really value I really value replaceable over rechargeable, which has me leaning towards Resound, but the features of the Phonak look excellent. Any feedback on the differences that might help me make a choice? Has Phonak discussed pricing to replace the battery a few years down the road? Okay, so this individual has been doing a good job identifying that these are the two top hearing aids that he is considering, or he or she is considering. And both of them fantastic hearing aids. Honestly, unless one has a particular feature that you absolutely need, you almost can't go wrong by going with either one of them without me having knowledge of what your actual hearing loss is. If replaceable battery is important to you, then yes, you need to be strongly considering the Resound, because they do give you a replaceable battery option or disposable battery option instead of forcing you to go rechargeable like you have to go with the Phonak Audeo Lumity. With that said, the Phonak Audeo Paradise, which is the generation directly before the Lumity, is a fantastic hearing aid. So if you are really strongly considering going non-rechargeable, you could go back a generation on Phonak and still get a fantastic hearing aid. With that said, you cannot get the Activent receiver with a non-rechargeable hearing aid from Phonak. You have to have the rechargeable version of the hearing aid to go with the Activent. Now, these two receivers are two different receivers. One of them has a microphone that goes inside of your ear. The other one has a vent that opens and closes to control, in the canal acoustics. So they are definitely different hearing aids from that particular perspective. So I would actually have to follow this up with, why is it that you think that the Marie receiver or the Activent receiver is the most appropriate option for you? And maybe if you go down to the description of this video and leave a question, I can, or down to the comment section and leave a question, I could get you to answer that, so I could give you a follow-up response to that. And then there's a lot of differences still between these two devices. You really have to go and watch my review videos and kind of go down them line by line or minute by minute to actually identify the differences between these two devices, because there are a lot of differences like I just mentioned. So make sure that you go check that out. And then on the other hand, it seems like maybe the rechargeable battery issue is that there's going to be a cost to replace it down the road. Now, those batteries are rated for 6 years. I can tell you, you are not going to get 6 years of battery life out of those batteries. But most of those hearing aids are going to come with a 3-year warranty, which means that if your hearing care professional is doing their job well, they will take those hearing aids back from you at year 3, send them into Phonak, get Phonak to replace those rechargeable batteries at no charge. And then your hearing care professional can get them back to you. So it's like starting with a fresh battery at the 3-year mark, assuming that they didn't have to change any batteries throughout the course of that time. Now, if you end up having a battery replacement outside of warranty, it'll probably cost you a couple $100 to get that battery replaced. So when you really look at it over the course of the long term, you're going to be spending about the equivalent amount of money between disposable battery hearing aids and rechargeable battery hearing aids, because typically the rechargeable battery hearing aids will cost you more initially. And then if you have to pay for an out-of-pocket replacement after that warranty period, you're going to be hit with a couple $100 right off the bat there. So depending on how cheaply you can buy batteries, it might end up being just a wash between the two. But I think that this is one of those things where you really have to go and see a hearing care professional because even my reviews are not like super nitty gritty comprehensive. I mean, I spend a lot of time on those reviews, and they're about 15 to 25 minutes long per review. And I really try to get to all of the main features and aspects of those devices, but still, again, you have to find a hearing care professional who is very understanding of all the particular nuances of a brand of devices and their experience on how to implement those devices. So what I would say on top of that is that if you have a hearing care professional who follows best practices and they are really good with the Resound hearing aids, I say lean towards Resound. If you go to a hearing care professional who is really good with, or who follows best practices and who's really good with Phonak, then I would say lean Phonak. So it really just depends on what their experience level is. If you get lucky, you'll find a hearing care professional who's good with 2 or 3 different brands. And here's how it typically works. Typically, you have an audiologist or a hearing instrument specialist who is really good with 2 to 3 brands of hearing aids. And outside of that, they're, average or so. They're just not as familiar with those brands because they don't fit them as often. But if you go to someone who follows best practices, I would rather you go with a hearing aid outside of their core of what they're familiar with, because they follow best practices, so they can optimize those devices better for you, because you'll do better with those hearing aids with the best practice provider than you would be with someone who does not follow best practices, but they're really experienced in one particular brand of hearing aids. So I hope that came across as making sense. You might be thinking, what is a best practice provider? Well, that's why I started the Hearing Up Provider Network. So if you do not know what best practices are, you need to watch my best practices video. And then if you're looking for a best practice provider, make sure that you go over to hearingup.com and use the provider locator tool, because every single one of those providers are committed to following comprehensive best practices. All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed how I answered those questions. You guys gave a really good response a couple weeks ago when I did this first Q&A type video on my vlog. And I don't know if I actually did a good job of that or if it was just keyworded well. So let me know if you liked how I answered these questions down in the comments section. I read the question and I just start rambling every idea that comes to my head with that particular question. So hopefully it provided you with some amount of value here today. What I can promise you is that on the Dr. Cliff Show this coming week with Dr. Rachel Cook and Kelsey Beck, they're gonna do probably a better job answering these questions because it'll be a little bit of back and forth between them. So make sure that you guys tune into that. Again, I greatly appreciate you doing so. And as always, I'll see you next week.